Hey, how's everybody doing today? Today I want to address, probably in more than one video, because it's pretty extensive, my experience with this particular subject matter, something around squatters' rights. And first thing I want to do is tell people, well, what is a squatter? Well, a squatter is someone that's living in a property, could be your property, could be someone else's property, and doesn't really have the right to be there. And most people's initial reaction to that is, well, if they're not supposed to be there, well, then why don't I just call the police and let them handle it and kick them out of the property and press charges, things like that? Well, it's a little bit more complicated than that, at least in Philadelphia. And I'll give you one of my experiences. I bought a property in Philadelphia in West Oak Lane section years ago. Probably spent, I don't know, $50,000 remodeling the place. And I always remember the place because I had a really bad flea infestation. But we took care of that. We fixed it. We made it nice. We rented it to someone initially. And after a couple of months, that person just kind of moved out. So I decided I was going to rent it again. And I put an ad out. And a woman responded to the ad. And I met her at the property and opened the door. I walked in, and the whole property was painted like a banana yellow. And there were these two older African American gentlemen painting it. And they turned around and they said, "Who are you?" And then a very, very pregnant woman showed up and said, "Who are you?" to me. I said, "Well, I'm the owner. Who are you?" They're like, "You're not the owner. Pete's the owner." I said, "Pete who?" I said, you can look up this property. It's the name of my company. And I don't know what we were talking about. So they called 911. I called 911. Next thing I know, we have about six squad cars show up. And they see a pregnant woman and they see me and they presume that maybe I did something to her. So I went on to explain to the officers, and they were wearing blue shirts here in Philadelphia, that what happened. I showed up. They're in my property. They repainted the whole thing for some reason. They had some of their things in there, like chairs and small amount of things, and they just didn't know what to do. And I was like, "What's so confusing? I'm the owner of the property. I can demonstrate I'm the owner, and they're not supposed to be here." Thinking it was that simple. Well, a couple minutes later, a guy in a white shirt, which turned out to be a captain, who actually knows law a lot better than the blue shirts. He looked at the situation. He spoke to her. He spoke to me. He said, "Come here, let me talk to you for a second." I said, "Sure." And obviously, I was highly, highly upset because I didn't know what was happening. I thought I was well within my rights. He put his arm around me. He said, "Listen, let me ask you a question. That chair over there, is that your chair or does it belong to her?" I said, "Well, it's not mine. I presume it belongs to her." He goes, "What about that paint can?" I said, "Well, that's probably hers as well." He said, "Well, my man, it looks like you got yourself a new tenant." I said, "A new tenant? I didn't rent her the property." "Well, she's got a lease. So that lease is from someone. I interviewed her, and that's her stuff. So the law says that she's in constructive possession of the property." I said, "Well, what does that mean?" He goes, "Well, she's in here. She has keys to the property, which I don't even know how she got. And yeah, she's here. So you might as well talk to her and see if you can actually make her your legitimate tenant." And he said, "Oh, by the way, one more thing. If we get any kind of report that you're trying to get her out of here on your own by turning off the electricity or doing something that will thwart her in any way, I have your driver's license. I know where you live, and I'll come to your home and put you in handcuffs and put you in jail." So you can imagine how upset I was, thinking I'd done nothing wrong. I just showed up one day to show one of my properties that I spent a significant amount of money fixing and rehabbing plus acquiring, and I have this person living in my property now for free. um, but I thought about what the captain said, and what I did was I got her phone number. I made an appointment with her to come into my office. I sat down with her. I realized that, she'd been the victim of fraud. Apparently, someone had cloned the keys to my house. Someone saw that it was vacant, and they put an ad out in the paper renting that house for $600 a month at the time, when at the time the rent on that house should have been about $900 a month. And got a whole bunch of people to apply for the property, collected deposits from about 10 people, so the guy walked away with about $20,000 in cash, and he just gave leases to all these different people and keys, and she just so happened to be the one that moved in first, and so she won that lottery. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, she came into my office. She turned out to be a really, really nice person. She wound up being my tenant at the property for probably about 3 years, and then I actually helped her find another house to buy, and now she's a homeowner. And that was a really positive thing that wound up happening out of something that really wasn't so positive either for her or for me. We're both the victims of someone that was really ripping people off. And it turns out that the girl that I was showing the property to saw his ad and saw my ad and gave us his phone number, and we set up a sting through the Philadelphia police and had him arrested. And I believe he was prosecuted. I really don't remember. It was quite a long time ago, way prior to the pandemic. And well, something positive came out of it, and more than anything, I got an education in firsthand experience in squatters' rights. And had I not chose to make her my tenant, I couldn't evict her because I didn't have a lease with her. I would have had to take her to common pleas court. An ejectment action is a lot more expensive than an eviction. It's a different thing altogether, and it could have taken me years to get her out of the property. Meanwhile, I had a mortgage on the property. I had taxes, insurance I have to pay, and it would have been bad for me because I would have taken a loss. Anyway, that's my one story, my initial story, and how I became intimately acquainted with what squatters' rights are and what I could do or not do legally to help resolve and solve my own problem. And from that, really, that turned into understanding things a lot better and me helping a lot of different people. And I'm going to sort of share those stories on other videos that I'm going to share on here as well. Anyway, that's my story. I'm sticking to it, and have a good day. Thank you.